Welcome to Micanopy, where time takes a nap and history gives you a crisp high five. This little town, part of the Gainesville metropolitan area, although you can pretty much toss that metropolitan part directly into the Hogtown Creek, boasts a whopping 600 residents. It's like a slice of old-time Florida with its historical downtown and antique shops galore. They even have a firehouse and a library.
First off, we now have electricity.
Way back when, Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto stumbled upon this place in 1539, and later, a dude named William Bartram jotted down some notes about a village nearby. And fast forward to 1821, when Micanopy officially became a hotspot thanks to the Florida Association of New York, and rumor has it they even named it after Chief Micanopy in order to keep the peace. During the Second Seminole War, this town saw some serious action with forts popping up left and right. And let's not forget about the railroad boom in the late 1800s, turning Micanopy into a hub for citrus and farming. Today, though, it's a quaint little town with big ol' history, sitting pretty as the oldest continuously inhabited spot in Florida's heartland. So, if you ever find yourself craving some vintage vibes and a side of sunshine, swing by Micanopy and say hello to the town that time just forgot. Oh, and also, join us today as we do just a little exploring.
It's boring!
Micanopy may look a little familiar to those of you who, much like myself, enjoy a good 80s or 90s era Michael J. Fox flick.
I can't guess you guys aren't ready for that yet.
The 1991 Fox vehicle about a young hotshot doctor driving from Washington, D.C. to Beverly Hills for an interview with a prestigious plastic surgeon who then crashes his car in the one-horse South Carolina town of Grady, South Carolina, and is therefore sentenced to work in the town's equally modest medical facility where he, of course, learns the true meaning of Christmas, or something, used Micanopy for many of the town scenes in Doc Hollywood. Now, there are a lot of videos on YouTube for those of you who are learning a little bit more about, Doc Hollywood, and I do have a video linked in the video description down below, but this video, well, it's more about this quaint little town and what you might expect when you visit. Let's get this one out of the way, shall we? I love exploring a good cemetery. To me, it's hard to find a better way to understand and connect with a region, better than visiting a local cemetery, and really in my case at least, the older, the better. Micanopy Historic Cemetery is definitely old. Another prominent doctor in this story, in this case Dr. H. Lucius Montgomery Sr., established the cemetery in 1826, making it easily one of the oldest active cemeteries in Florida. There are currently more than 2,000 burials in the cemetery, and it dates back to 1826, and you can see the age and the history all around you when you visit this beautiful, but definitely haunting location. Something that really caught me off guard in the cemetery was the varied conditions found around the entire cemetery. Pristine monuments to loved ones recently passed proudly show off colorful flowers and trinkets of remembrance, while other graves belong to people whose entire lineage has since disappeared from the area. And as such, we see them begin to crumble and be reclaimed by the sandy grounds and giant oaks that are dotting the landscape. If you're a history buff or just enjoy things like beautiful stonework and quiet Florida landscapes, this cemetery is definitely a must-visit. But on a personal note, please be careful where you walk and you keep your children and your pets close by. There are a good number of exposed roots and shifting grounds thanks to the sandy soil, so it wouldn't be too terribly hard to find yourself in a rapidly forming void of your own amongst these graves here in Micanopy. No trip to Micanopy could be considered complete without a visit to the beautiful and somewhat surreal downtown area, which consists of a small thoroughfare on Choloca Boulevard, which is buried deep amongst the swaying oaks and the Spanish moss of Micanopy. When I visited, it was very late in an afternoon on a Monday in November, and it was kind of hard to believe that this area could ever be any quieter. Parking near one end of Chilocca, I began walking the length of the city center. The small town was once a commercial hub for Florida in the 1800s, but as time moved on, so did the people, and Micanopy began a new life as one of the most notable antiquing locations in the South. I mean, you literally can't swing a cat without hitting an antique store downtown.
Why do people keep saying stuff like that?
As I walked along Chilocca, I found various historical markers pointing to the past life of the little town, dotting the grassy knoll that separated the two sides of the street, alongside various other pieces of nostalgic decor that added to the overall atmosphere. Mixed into the various antique stores that live inside the remaining historic and sometimes century-old buildings were various cafes, coffee houses, and bakeries, staffed by the rare locals that still call Micanopy home and serving fresh goods alongside beaming smiles and the type of entertainment that really hardly exists here in the 21st century. Reaching the end of the tiny commercial district, you'll find that downtown Micanopy still has a lot more to show you. Tiny parks and ancient-looking churches give a taste of real life in Micanopy. Maybe 100 yards further, you can't help but notice the stately Hurlong Mansion. Built in 1845, this historic bed and breakfast inn continues to welcome guests today for weddings and group get-togethers, or even just a simple weekend away. As we continue further down Chilocca, more historic homes and other buildings push up against the sidewalks, their architecture betraying their true age, even if most of them have been kept in rather impeccable condition. The Micanopy Historical Society Museum is another hard-to-miss spectacle. In this particular case, the ancient spectacle of a building is a bit of an Inception attraction. It's a historical museum housing historical artifacts, all kept in an equally historical building. Housed inside are the artifacts that tell the story of Micanopy, from its indigenous roots to its Jewish heritage as the first Jewish communal settlement in the U.S., all the way up to its days as a commercial hub and, of course, on to much more recent events. And while you're there, make sure you get a picture taken with the amazing 1930 Coca-Cola advertisement mural that is painted on the side of the building. It has long been established on this channel that I'm a proud barbecue snob. And one of the golden rules of barbecue that I learned decades ago was that the very best barbecue tends to come from some of the most humble locations. And that's what brings Pearl's Country Store and Barbecue to our story. You want to talk humble? Well, this one is housed inside of a fairly large convenience store for an otherwise unassuming gas station, roughly a third of a mile away from the museum we just talked about. And Pearl's is a local legend when it comes to smoked meats. While they very proudly serve a very popular Southern breakfast, it's the barbecue that has really put them on the map. Pork, brisket, chicken, ribs, all smoked low and slow on site. Your order's going to take a few minutes though, as everything is plated fresh, so while they're doing that, take a few minutes to check out the Country Store. During my visit to Pearl's, I went with a pulled pork sandwich with a spicy barbecue sauce, and it was excellent. And believe me, if it's not, I will tell you. The smoke really came through on this one, and the sauce, it balanced sweet with tangy, making it obvious that they weren't just pouring grocery store corn syrup all over a sandwich, which, unfortunately, is what a lot of touristy places tend to do. Well, we've got one little piece of Micanopy trivia left for you, but before we do, I'm gonna ask a favor. If you're enjoying this little trip to small town Micanopy and you want to see more videos like this one, can I humbly ask you to consider hitting the thumbs up button and subscribing? It really does help, because every time you hit thumbs up or subscribe, it tells YouTube that there really is an audience out there that likes small town exploration. Again, thank you so much in advance, and thank you so much for being here. As promised, I do have one more little piece of Micanopy trivia for you, and this one is a bit lesser known, and certainly not the type of place you're going to see landing on a map. Deep into the swamps of Micanopy, away from most of civilization, there's this quiet and pretty unassuming dirt road that leads past all the Florida forests and the cow pastures, small ponds. Now there's some sporadic houses here and there and a few larger properties that push back pretty far from the road, but not a whole lot else. And amongst these properties is the former ranch of the Phoenix family, a property where actors River and Joaquin Phoenix spent a lot of time in their formative years before moving to Hollywood. What's more, after the untimely death of River Phoenix outside of the Hollywood Viper Room in 1993, his ashes returned to Micanopy Ranch, where they were scattered in the shadow of a large oak tree on the property. The ranch has since moved into the hands of another family, and they don't exactly encourage visitors, so please, let me be clear about this. Do not try to get onto the property or to find the oak tree. You will get arrested, and that is one portion of Micanopy adventures that you really don't want to experience. So there you have it, a small taste of what awaits you in Micanopy, Florida, one of Florida's most historical and most underrated visits. Like small town exploration as much as I do? Check out this next video, and we'll continue to see you when we do just a little more exploring.